So I want to share a story with you, quite literally from the heart. That goes back to in October and November of 2015, and that actually resulted in me having that was actually a time when I had a heart bypass. You know, for some of you don't know, it's probably most of you in the community. I've got this little scar here on my chest, which was from open heart surgery back in November 2015, and my team jokingly call it my cleavage now. But I just want to talk about choices in life and protecting yourself. So October, November 2015. Let me jump back about 8 years prior and surprises in life. And this is going to just talk around. And you'll see me rambling a bit more than I usually do, as I sort of, because this is something that's very, very near and dear to a whole range of very important decisions in my life. So for all of us, life's perfect, right? We all, if you look on Facebook, you look at everything else, life's just nothing. Everything happens is always brilliant and wonderful, and we have dramas, that kind of small, superficial ones. But sometimes, life doesn't work that way. Sometimes life throws curveballs at you, and they can hit you out of left field. And I mean, like real serious ones, not first world problems that so often we talk about and complain about. I first saw that when I started in medical school, when I graduated as a doctor, and my first rotation as an intern was in the emergency department. I had the chance of, I remember one of the most impacting things I saw was a 27-year-old who'd come in having his first heart attack, and then everything from in between, from traumas to everything, life events of cancer, surprise chronic diseases, just a whole range of things. And it got me really clear that life doesn't always go as planned. We can have the best laid plans, we can read all the books, get all the seminars, do everything we like, dream, pray, whatever you want. Sometimes life's got a different path. And for me, it happened, if I go back about 8 years ago, actually 9 years ago now. I was 39 at the time. And my father had just had a heart bypass, and I thought, well, hey, I'd been a national level swimmer. I'd kind of prioritised my health. I'd looked after my health for all my life, and he'd had a heart bypass. I thought, well, okay, at 39, I'll just go and just get a baseline check. I'll just get a baseline look at, and just get a clean bill of health. And I went to have a coronary CT scan to have a look at, and there's just some people walking behind. So I might just pause and come back in a sec. Okay, so the people have walked past and sort of back with you. So I decided to get a coronary artery CT scan. It's one of those, it's a CAT scan, advanced X-ray, effectively, that has a close look at the arteries inside your heart. And I was expecting to come back with a clean bill of health. 39, 10-foot tall, bulletproof, everything was great. And what came back was something a little different. What came back was an aneurysm. So if you imagine your artery goes like that, and they had this about a 4 millimeter at the time balloon of a weakness in the artery wall, actually came back in one of my main arteries, the main artery that actually supplies the electrical system to your heart. Caught me massively by surprise. I really wasn't expecting it. And the beginnings either side of that was the beginning of plaque deposit, plaque build-up either side of where that aneurysm actually came, which I think is due to the turbulence of the flow that was coming down into that. And that was, oh my gosh, so I've got a ticking time bomb inside my chest. What does this mean? We'll roll the story forward. What it basically meant was just being aware. I went on some medication at the time to try to slow plaque build-up, keep my blood pressure down a little bit more, and that type of stuff. And wheel that forward, I was then having checks every couple of years just to have a look and just monitor the status of it. So let's go forward 2 years previously. So we're sort of sitting in 2013. I've had a look. The plaque build-up's kind of there. It was about a 40% blockage that had kind of come either side. It was, okay, got to, it's progressing, got to stay on top of this, but it's progressing, but under control. And then we go through to October 2015. So just 24 months later, I go and do a routine exercise, a stress echocardiogram. So you get on this treadmill, you kind of walk, and they look at your heart pulsating and how it pumps blood as you're on this treadmill. And I feel okay. I'm going around. My heart rate gets up, I think, about 170 beats a minute. I'm feeling all right. And then at 9 o'clock that night, the cardiologist happened to go to medical school with my wife and I. Gives us a call and says to my wife, hey, half of Tony's heart wall wasn't moving when he was doing that exercise. When the heart rate got up at a certain level, my heart wall stopped moving and it was not pumping properly. And by the way, that's really not good. Your heart should be pumping properly all the way through. And what came next was she said, okay, we need to go in and get an actual angiogram. It's kind of when they make a cut in the groin and they stick a tube right the way up to the beginning of your heart artery, pump some dye in it, and then look at the blood vessels in real time and look at and see if they can see exactly where the problem lies. And so she said, by the way, be prepared. They might have to put a stent in if there's a block there at the time. They might actually have to put a stent in, which is one of these little sort of wire coils that sort of props open partially blocked blood vessels. So I'm going, okay, gee, I don't really feel like this. This is not really great. It's sort of, day surgery to actually get this done. So we go into the hospital to get this done. This is now a week later. So I've had the stress echocardiogram. Sorry, I've had the stress echocardiogram, gone in and got now going to have this coronary angiogram. So I go in, we do the angiogram. She has a look inside, and the blockages moved from a 40% blockage to an 85% obstruction in just 24 months. Which, by the way, is really not good. That was a massive acceleration, totally out of left field. And what comes out next is she says, and we can't put a stent in. And the location of it was sitting right at a split in the blood vessel, so the location of it, and also the fact that the vessel changed in size. It goes from like that thick to sort of that thick at certain points and comes down. They couldn't actually put a wire in it because it would have exposed wire, and that would have a real high chance of a catastrophic blockage and sudden death coming from, which is actually really not cool. So I come out of that. So this is now 1 week down the track. She comes out and says, you're going to need to have a bypass. Now, imagine, so a week earlier I'm sitting there and going, life's good, nothing's wrong, right? Yeah, I've got this aneurysm, but I just got to monitor it and it might cause problems later in life. And suddenly I'm now 45 at the time. They now say I've got to have open heart surgery. So I go literally from that angiogram to see the cardiothoracic surgeon the following week. He sees me on the Thursday, says, I can operate on you on the Monday. And you go, oh shit. What does that mean? It means they're basically going to put a cut down here, crack open your chest, open it up, 5-odd hour operation inside, and then you've got a 12-week recovery period, assuming everything goes well. And this isn't a simple bypass, and because they've got to do a double skip through 2 vessels because of where the aneurysm was located. And there's also risk of dying on the operating table, not insignificant risk. So what do you do? That's a really great way of really messing up all of your plans, and suddenly you go, hey, all those plans you had? Well, guess what? We've got something different on the menu for you. Time to change. So this now wheels into November. In fact, November 17, I go in to have this bypass. Now, what does life have for you at the time? So at the time, I'm running a company. We've got 140 financial advisors in it around Australia. It's one of the fastest growing companies in Australia. And everything that sort of seemed important then just kind of just stopped in its tracks. And you just get a real wake-up call to say, well, shoot, how do I want to show up in life here? How do I actually want to approach life here? And I had to prepare in less than a week. I had to prepare for the fact that I might not come out of the procedure. Now, by the way, it had a happy ending because I'm here recording this video with you. But I had to prepare for the fact that I might actually not come out of that procedure. So, you're sitting there looking and really going, if this is the last week of my life, what needs to be put in place? And yeah, it's about you and the things you want to do, but it's about the people you leave behind. I've got 2 boys, I've got a beautiful wife. And what do you do to make sure things are okay for them? And also, assuming you come out of it okay, what do you do to make sure everything is prepared, that you can just really focus on your healing and recovery and the things that are truly, truly, truly important to you? Well, I had to go and, in that time, visit lawyers, accountants, a range of stuff, get everything, signed across, make sure all the wills were intact, and my wife was directors on the companies, and a whole range of things that we needed to make sure was actually completely intact. I also resigned out of my other position in the other financial services business, because regardless, I've got other things to do with my life. And then the time comes after the procedure, and I can still remember it, that as I'm waiting to have the injection that then puts you under, I'm actually saying goodbye to my family. And not just, hey, goodbye, I'll see you in a couple of hours. I was actually saying goodbye like it could well be the last time. And actually sincerely believing that, hey, I might not come out of this. Well, that leaves you with a bunch of things. I mean, as I joke and I talk. Well, I don't joke so much. There's darkness in the laughter. But as I talk to you about it, what I was able to do coming out of that was, I came out of the procedure. I was in hospital for 5 days. I had, I focus of the mind, accelerated recovery, all that sort of stuff. Then you've got to get out and really, take things easy and progressively, exercise, build your resilience up, etc. So obviously there's no anything that resembles work over that period of time. If you're doing what's authentically right, you want to be focusing on really your recovery. For the people around you, my wife is a practicing doctor. She stopped work at the same time as well, to focus on making sure that I had the time and the like, and there was somebody supervising and monitoring me and the like through that. So what does this kind of get to, and why am I sharing this with you? Well, what I want to share with you is that go back to my early 20s. I had some really good advice, and the advice came back around protect yourself, and you'll see it in our modules that we've got now. But the advice came around about really protect yourself, and it was assume life's going to be great, but prepare in case it isn't, because sometimes bad things happen to good people. And you can't predict them, you can't expect them. And the time to prepare and protect yourself is when everything is great. The challenge channel is it's generally not urgent, so a lot of people just leave it. They don't make sure they've got the right safety nets in place, that they're adequately protected. And the challenge is when the time comes that it is urgent, you can't do it. You can't actually put your safety net in place when it's urgent, because you've got other stuff to take care of. Now, coming out of the bypass, what I was lucky enough, well, not lucky, this wasn't luck, this was a prepared plan just in case. And now I never expected to need to use it, I seriously didn't. I thought I was going to, hopefully I'll still be around till 103 or whatever, but I certainly didn't expect to have to use it at 45. But have your safety nets in place. Because the one thing you don't want to have to worry about, if something comes up, you just don't want to have money problems compounding it. The worst thing you want is to sit there and go, how am I going to pay the hotel bill? Yeah, that would be great. How am I going to pay the hospital bill? I'm going to pay my medical expenses. How am I going to survive not having work income coming in, or if my partner needs to stop work? And because the things that are going to hurt you is going to be the lump sum expenses that come up, and the fact that your income, if you're working and exchanging your time for money, stops. That's what's going to really hurt you. And you don't want to have to go and think, how am I going to pay the bills, or I've got to show up to work because I've got to keep income coming in, when what you really need to do is to be home with your family. What you really need to do is be focused on getting well. What you really need to do is to make sure those important relationships are intact and rock solid, and that's what you need to be doing at that time. And what I can share with you is coming out of that example, which was a massive life shift for me. It was actually the motivation prior that started what has became MindShift.money. I started writing a series of books I started writing down a whole lot of notes for my kids of what I wanted to share with them, that then got turned into the books, that got turned into some of the following in the audience, that then got turned into MindShift.money. And so that was, there's been some real good come out of it. But coming out of the bypass, what I can tell you is we had our safety nets were intact and they held. we didn't have to worry about how we were paying the bills. We didn't have to worry about income streams. We didn't have to worry about any of that. We just could focus on just making sure that the time was special, precious, and focused on what was truly, deeply most important to us. So I share that with you just from my side around how I view protecting yourself and building it before you need it. And hopefully you never need it, but build it before you need it. Because sometimes life has different plans than what you're actually expecting. So the question is, what choices would you want to have available to you? If something happens in life that you're sick and can't work, or disabled and can never work, or have a life-threatening diagnosis, or lo and behold, you actually pass away. Not something you want to consider. Everybody wants life to be rosy, but it doesn't always work that way. So that's my view. When you see some of what we talk about, there is it's deeply personal. The part I haven't shared with you in this part here is all the stories behind the scenes of people who haven't had their safety nets in place, haven't protected themselves properly, and how their choices are different. Just today, what prompted me to record this video for you today was there's a Facebook feed from a friend of ours who had an accident, injured her back in November last year. And the Facebook feed is looking for help and looking for volunteers and looking for sponsoring donations, I should say, not sponsorships, looking for donations, so that how she can pay the bills to help get some railings put in her home, to do a range of things, because her safety nets went in place. She hadn't adequately protected herself. And now that that's come about, she's in trouble. Now she should be focusing on convalescence. She should be focusing on getting well. That would be the ideal circumstance of a strong safety net. But instead she's worried about how she pays bills in this period of time. So I guess moral of the story here is, how well protected are you? Okay. It's important. It's just not urgent until you need it. So take care of it while it's important and you're in good health. Look at your emergency buffers. Look at getting yourself out of debt. Look at making sure you've got the adequate insurances in place, that the gap is covered, that if something happens, you're adequately protected. So that's what I want to share with you from the heart. And that's it over and out for me for this one.